Emmerdale's darkest hour, a confession, a betrayal, and a horrifying plunge leaves 3 lives on the line. Have you ever felt that icy knot of dread forming your stomach? That cold, creeping realization that the person standing in front of you, someone you thought you knew, is a complete and terrifying stranger. For Aaron Dingle, that nightmare just became his reality in an episode of Emmerdale that will be seared into our minds for years to come. In a gut-wrenching, heart-stopping hour of television, the twisted web woven by John Sugden finally tore apart, leaving us screaming at our screens as 3 beloved characters now hang by the thinnest of threads between life and death. It all began in that deceptively cozy cottage, a place that has seen its fair share of secrets, but none as dark as the one festering within John. We've all been watching, holding our breath as his obsession with Aaron has spiraled into something dangerous. We knew he was holding Mackenzie Boyd hostage, his prisoner in a desolate underground bunker, but the sheer depth of his delusion was something no one could have prepared for. Tonight, the pressure cooker finally exploded. Robert Sugden, driven by a brother's intuition and a desperate need for answers, arrived at the cottage. The air was thick with unspoken accusations before a single word was uttered. You could feel the history between them, the rivalry, the pain, the complex bond that only brothers share. When Robert finally voiced the fear that has been haunting the village, accusing John of murder, the denial that shot back was laced with venom and a chilling self-righteousness. "Unlike you, Robert," John spat, twisting the knife of Robert's own dark past, "I haven't killed anyone." That single sentence ignited the fuse. The confrontation erupted into a raw, physical brawl. It wasn't a choreographed fight scene, it was ugly, desperate, and brutal. 2 brothers, fueled by years of resentment and a fresh layer of fear, collided until Robert was left motionless on the floor. For a fleeting moment, we saw a flicker of panic in John's eyes. As he checked for a pulse, a wave of relief washed over him. He hadn't crossed that final line. He wasn't a killer, not yet. But any sense of relief was shattered in an instant. A flicker of movement on a hidden camera monitor revealed his worst fear. Aaron Dingle was escaping. The game was up. For Aaron, the horror was just beginning to dawn. Piecing together the fragmented clues, the lies, and John's increasingly erratic behavior, he was now painfully aware that the man he was married to was involved in Mac's disappearance. Driven by a desperate, adrenaline-fueled hope, he bolted into the cold, unforgiving woods, his every panicked breath a prayer for Mac. The rustling leaves, the snapping twigs underfoot, every sound was a monster. Every shadow was John. His frantic search became more and more hopeless until he was stopped dead in his tracks. The world simply fell away before him, a massive gaping gorge carving through the earth. A dead end, trapped. As he turned, his heart pounding against his ribs, he came face to face with the very man he was fleeing, John. What followed was one of the most chilling confessions in Emmerdale history. John, seeing the terror in Aaron's eyes, tried to spin a story of heroism. He tried to paint himself as a savior, not a captor. "He's alive," John pleaded, his voice cracking with a terrifying sincerity. "I've been looking after him. He was in a bad way. I didn't want him to die. I'm telling you the truth." And then, the devastating motive behind it all came pouring out, a toxic declaration of love that sounded more like a death sentence. "It was all for you, Aaron," he confessed, his eyes wide with a manic devotion. "I didn't want to fall in love with you, but I did." Can you imagine the terror? Standing on the edge of a cliff, listening to the man who holds your friend's life in his hands confess that his violent, criminal actions were all in your name. Aaron, thinking on his feet, played the only card he had left. He urged John to confess, to call the police to end this madness. For a split second, it seemed to work. John, on the verge of a breakdown or a breakthrough, reached for his phone. But then, a figure emerged from the trees, Robert. John's mind, already so fragile, snapped. The hope of redemption vanished, replaced by a storm of pure paranoia and betrayal. "I am so stupid," he seethed, the warmth in his eyes turning to ice. "You tricked me. You brought him here, didn't you? You're in this together." In a move of pure, calculated evil, John dialed the police, but not to confess. He called to frame Robert, weaving a frantic story about his husband's ex-lover showing up, threatening to kill them both. It was his final, twisted checkmate. He turned back to Aaron, his face a mask of tragic, possessive rage. "I've already told you, Aaron. I just loved you too much," he whispered, the words hanging in the air like a curse. Then came the chilling anthem of the obsessed, a line that will haunt viewers for weeks to come. "But if you can't be mine, I'm sorry, you can't be anyone's." As John lunged, Robert made a split-second, unthinkable choice. In a desperate, horrifying gamble to save Aaron from John's grasp, he wrapped his arms around him and threw them both backward, off the cliff and into the abyss. The final, heart-stopping shot was of their two broken bodies lying at the bottom of the ravine. The silence was deafening. Has Robert's desperate act saved Aaron, or has he just signed both of their death warrants? Will either of them survive that catastrophic fall? And perhaps the most terrifying question of all, with John the only one left standing, will anyone ever find Mackenzie Boyd before it's too late?